I ended the last update with me driving away from the motel parking lot, and after a few seconds of me pulling out, Mike pulled in. If I had left even a few minutes later, he would have caught me in my room packing my shit, or me packing everything up into my car. Did he think that I was an idiot and I wouldn't change places after he ended our conversation with, "You'll be seeing me sooner than you think"? Or maybe he's having just as much fun as I am with this game. After all, you don't take up this line of work without at least partially enjoying killing people. I'm probably giving him the same rush that he's giving me. I mean, probably he doesn't expect his clients to actually go after him or even know that he's coming. Anyways, I got to my next hotel and I took a shower that I desperately needed again. After I got out of the shower, I passed out on the bed after almost having been killed a few hours prior. When I woke up, I knew I needed to get going again. After all, I was it. I went to Walmart to pick up a new phone and some supplies to make a few suppressors. As I was walking down the aisles watching all the fat ass Americans on their scooters because they're too fucking lazy to walk, I started contemplating about how Mike even got my number. I picked up my new phone and a few cans of Cheese Whiz, along with a few other supplies for my suppressors. I'm not gonna get into how I made them, but I just pulled the first guide online that showed me how to do it, and they were a real pain in the ass to make. Anyways, as I was checking out, I took out my cash and looked at the phone that I was about to buy. It dawned on me that when all of this started, I paid for my first throwaway phone with my card. I'm such a fucking idiot. That's probably how he tracked me down. I paid for everything and got back to my hotel. The first thing I did was do some research to see if it was possible to get a phone's ESN/MID number just from a purchase. It turns out it was possible to do. It was a difficult process of going through Walmart's purchase database or the phone's manufacturer database. Fuck, another mistake on my part. If I keep fucking up like this, I'm gonna end up dead. I took the rest of the day to make the suppressors for myself, and they turned out pretty good, except for the huge fucking Cheese Whiz mess I had to clean up. I now had one for my 9mm and one for my P90. After all this was done, it was dark out. I wanted to see if Mike would somehow be able to find me with no credit card activity or cell phone at his disposal. So I waited. A day passed by, then two, then three, and about a week and 3 hotels later, I figured he was only able to track me when I used my card, or slipped up somehow like anyone who doesn't know a hitman is following them would do. Unless he was watching me and studying me the whole time, which I doubt he was doing. By the end of the week of sleepless nights and constantly looking over my shoulder, I was completely out of cash on hand. I knew I needed to hit a bank or an ATM, but as soon as I withdrew some cash from my account, they would know I did and the location I got it from. After a bit of thinking about this, I figured I could actually use this to my advantage. So I set out to surprise little old Mike. After all, a week prior, he set me up, so I figured it was about time to return the favor. I traveled about 30 minutes to the very outskirts of northwest Las Vegas. I found an area that seemed perfect. My bank on one side of the street and a desert with lots of boulders and Joshua trees on the other side. As I was surveying the area, on one of the corners near the bank I saw an ATV with a for sale sign on it. I went to the door and rang the bell. A nice typical suburban dad answered the door with his little girl right behind him, hugging his leg and looking up at me. "Can I help you?" he asked. "Yeah, I actually saw that you had a Yamaha ATV for sale, and I was wondering how much it was." He told me it was $1,500, and I told him that I was interested. We talked for a while, and he told me about his family and how they just had another little girl, so he had nor the time nor the money to keep this thing around. "My time of fun and fucking around is on hold for the moment, I guess," he said, laughing a bit. I laughed back, and while I was looking at him, I kind of envied him. If I had a girl that I loved a lot and some little ones that meant the world to me, I wouldn't be doing what I was currently doing. But that's neither here or there. Sorry, I'm rambling. I told him that I was interested in getting it now, and if it was okay if I ran to the bank to grab some cash. He told me that was fine and that he would be waiting outside. I got to the bank, and as I was about to put my card into the machine, a thought grabbed my attention. As soon as you pull out this money, you're gonna be on a time slot until Mike comes and checks out the area. I mentally prepared myself, and I pulled out the cash. It was time for us to meet again, this time on my terms. I ran back to the man's house with the ATV, and he was out checking everything on it. I handed him the cash and gave it a quick test drive around the neighborhood. I got back in a minute or two and thanked him for his time and wished him luck with his newborn. I got in my car and I told him that I was gonna park it around the corner nearby the park and come back for the ATV, as I was gonna be riding it today. He said that was fine and I took off. As soon as I parked in the park, I literally ran back to the house and hopped on the ATV. I had just pulled out the cash and knew Mike couldn't possibly be on his way already. But something inside me knew that I couldn't involve the nice gentleman that I had just bought this thing from. I wouldn't put it past Mike to break into their house and kill everyone in there just to get a hint of my location. I drove the ATV back to the park and parked it right behind my car. I got my backpack out from the back seat and put my homemade suppressors and my 9mm in there. I slung the P90 on my back and rolled up a few paper targets and put them in my pack just in case I got stopped by the police. At least I had an excuse that I was practicing my shooting out in the desert. I eventually got about 500 yards into the desert across from the bank. I set up one of the targets and fired 2 shots from both homemade suppressors from each gun. They both worked really well with only a small sound coming out of each of them. The sun started to set behind the mountains, and I got set up and parked my ATV behind a large boulder. When it got completely dark, I got on top of a boulder and lied down. I put on a black ski mask and a black shirt so I couldn't be noticed in the open. I flipped the cap to my scope on the P90 off and looked through it. I could see the bank dimly lit inside, as well as the parking lot. Now, all I had to do was to wait. It had been about an hour and a half to 2 hours since I took out the money, and figured Mike should be rolling by soon. I waited silently, watching people come and go from the bank, but no Mike. Around 11 o'clock or so, I finally saw his black car pull up. He drove around the bank once and then parked in front of it. I immediately noticed that his plates weren't on his car, which struck me as odd. He got out and walked up to the ATM and had something in his hand with wires attached to it. He put it in the machine and turned his back to me. Perfect. I flipped my safety off and took the shot. Boom. Center mass. He fell into the machine and pulled out his gun. How the fuck is he even moving? I shot him right through the fucking back. He ran and ducked behind his car. I aimed for his tires. Boom. Back right tire gone. Boom. Back left tire gone. At this point, he knew the direction I was shooting from, and he popped his head out. He shot twice in my direction, but he couldn't see me in the darkness. It was great. I had another huge smile on my face. Now you know what it's like to be trapped, you son of a bitch. But this time, you have no getaway vehicle.